Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at vafarmbureau.org.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Hello everyone and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce all of the wonderful products we enjoy. Oysters have played an important role in Virginia's culinary history. We have a savory breakfast sandwich recipe for the busy holiday season, and we travel to Gloucester for tips on raising holiday bulbs. Welcome back, everyone. We are here at Illuminate Light Show in Santa's Village in Doswell, Virginia, at the home of Secretariat Meadow Event Park. It is a great time to celebrate the holidays, and a lot of people like to celebrate the oyster during the holidays. It's a delicious treat, but as Dave Miller tells us, it was an important part of colonist diet.
Virginia colonists used oysters as an easy food source, and they were considered a great delicacy in England. The Colonial Williamsburg Foundation has recognized the importance of the oyster in Virginia. The foundation's archaeology department has begun gathering information about their use in the 18th century.
We are engaged, we're in about year 5 of a large-scale oyster analysis. We've looked at over 15,000 oysters so far, and what we're trying to look at is how oysters were being used in the 18th century, what people were using them for, and then what other information we can get from them. So oysters are a really great repository for information about climate, information about where they were harvested from, and that stuff is really interesting to us because that tells us about the market economy, that tells us about the climate at the time, that tells us about how people were getting their food, where they were getting their food from.
Some of the data gathered from the old oyster shells includes the time of year they were harvested and the salinity of the water. Stephen Atkins tells us that the age of the oysters at the time of harvest can be determined by examining the oyster shell hinge.
So we will take a number of samples that we want to do, and we'll start our process. And this begins by cutting the hinge in half and then taking the hinge and the half that we have, and then we mount that to a slide, which is here, and then we put it on a slow speed saw in order to cut our sections. And then we can take pictures of it, or we can look, and as if you're looking here, you can see a dark line, a light line, dark light, dark light. Each one of those represents growth of the oyster shell. So this is what we call the umbo, the start of the shell, and then this area over here represents when it was harvested.
Atkins says their analysis finds that oysters were eaten and the shells discarded by Native Americans before the colonists arrived. It also fleshes out how often oysters were on the menu in the middle 1700s in places like Williamsburg.
Oysters were so popular that in England in the 14th, the 15th, the 16th century, they almost decimate their own oyster population. So they come here already loving oysters. We know oyster shells are one of the most recovered artifacts from archaeological sites in this region. So people are eating a lot of them. If you look at cookbooks, they're being used in a lot of recipes as sauces, as garnishes, as stuffings. The shells are being used for mortar production, plaster. They're being used to make pathways. We have recipes from the Virginia Gazette talking about using ground up oyster shell to cure rabies, which probably didn't work that well, but so there's a lot of different applications for them in the 18th century. They're tremendously popular.
The oysters harvested in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries came from wild oyster beds, but too much of a good thing can be a problem. Virginia's oyster industry took a nosedive in the 20th century thanks to overharvesting and disease problems. New oyster varieties and modern aquaculture operations, along with improvements in water quality, have helped bring back the Virginia oyster.
If you start overharvesting the oysters, which they did in the past, then you start having a steep decline. Then you do not have the oysters within your environment to create a clean, Chesapeake Bay because they're plankton feeders and they bring in water, dirty water, and put out clean water.
Virginia watermen harvested 650,000 bushels of oysters in 2014. Virginia's farm-raised oyster harvest contributed more than half of that, at 375,000 bushels. The good news is that oysters are back as an important part of Virginia's food industry, just like they were centuries ago. In colonial Williamsburg, this is Dave Miller.
Farm-raised oysters are an important part of Virginia's overall aquaculture industry. The entire industry brings in about $100 million to the state's economy and employs 240 full-time and 181 part-time positions. More than 28 million market-sized cultured oysters are sold each year. That number keeps growing. And farm-raised oysters are helping clean up the Chesapeake Bay. For every 1,000 market-sized oysters harvested, an estimated 1.16 pounds of nitrogen and 0.35 pounds of phosphorus are removed from the water. Even individual property owners can raise oysters. Small garden oyster plots can be installed along riverbeds and under docks, allowing more producers to raise this important commodity.
I'm Mark Viette. Coming up on In the Garden, we're going to talk about holiday decorating for free. Stay with us.
Dazzling lights on winter nights will put you in the mood for the holiday season. It's the Illuminate Light Show at Meadow Event Park, November 21st to January 2nd in Caroline County. This spectacular holiday lighting event takes travelers through a musical show of color, lights, and design. Giant animated displays and illuminated trees lead to Santa's Village, where families can visit Santa Claus and enjoy the sights and magic of Christmas. To learn more, go to illuminatelightshow.com.
65 years ago, Virginia Farm Bureau made our local farmers a promise to protect and preserve a way of life they worked so hard to establish. Today, our insurance agents work to protect all Virginians, not just farmers. Anyone can be a Farm Bureau member, but the original promise remains. There's a local Farm Bureau in every county of the state. We want to keep Virginia, Virginia. Visit our websites at farmbureauadvantage.com and vafarmbureau.org.
Decorating for the holidays doesn't have to be just indoors. Mark Viette shows us how to bring the decorations outdoors in the garden.
As you look around here, you see beautiful evergreens, lots of green, red berries. Well, we've decorated all these antiques and sleigh and plows and old milk jugs with evergreens for free. Now, I don't mean for free time-wise. It did take us time to go out and harvest these evergreens, but that was the fun part, just going out and picking and selecting what you want to use around your ornaments. And if you have a white pine, you can get some white pine, use. Now, when I prune things during the winter months or early winter, I don't cut everything back. Like if I'm dealing with boxwood, I'll just take 1 out of every 10 branches. In some cases, you might decide to use what we call our native juniper. It's got lots of names. Red cedar is a common name, and it grows all over. And you can harvest beautiful long branches. That's what really makes decorating easy and fast, and you can fill in a lot of area quite quickly. So what we do is we take branches like this, and then we'll just go ahead and push them in like this. Cedrus atlanticus, the blue atlas cedar. You know, sometimes I like to limb this tree up so the trunk is beautiful. You can do the same thing. You take it and you can put it in and lay it down, and then you can start decorating with your ornaments and things on top. Well, I did say, you know, decorating for free. That may not include your free workout you got, but it's just great to get out and, you know, if you have some place you can actually harvest some greens, it's a lot of fun. And these are our native red cedar or juniper, and they're all different. Now, I will say, sometimes they produce great berries, and sometimes they produce no berries. It really depends on the spring. But if you look at the different types, we've got some that are sort of blue, some that have a lot of beautiful tan, like on this one. And then we have some that are sort of blue and green in combination. And it's really simple. I mean, if you want to take a little hand saw, I really like these big pruners, and you just come in. Now, in some cases, at least with all of these, I consider these red cedar renewable. They keep popping up on their own. So I don't mind if I come in and totally harvest just one or two. Or in some cases, I'll just get, you know, a branch or two off an assortment. It's just that easy. Again, if it's on your neighbor's property, ask permission. You don't want to start going out at night. But it's a really easy, inexpensive way to harvest your own greens, and then you can take and use something you actually cut yourself in your own decorations. You can use some of the cut red cedar as a background, and in front you can use an old wagon wheel, little hand cultivator, wooden snow shovel, sled, chair, and then you can fill in with some pine cones. In fact, the pine cones you can just harvest yourself, a little bit of blue spruce here and there, and then fill in with some winterberry. And as with this sleigh arrangement, we've got winterberry, Scotch pine, white pine, concolor fir, juniper, dried hydrangea flowers, pretty much anything from your own garden you can use to fill in. And I also recommend when you're done, maybe take a picture of this so you have a record of it for next year. And by having a record of it, you'll know how to decorate a little more quickly and make it a little more effective, especially if you find, like we all do, you're running out of time. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, go to inthegardenradio.com.
Looking for a recipe for your holiday brunch? We've got just the thing in the heart of the home next.
I feel that family farms are very important because it's not just a living or occupation, it's a way of life. We live, work, and play right here in one location.
The grandchildren are around, and as often as they can, they'll come and say, "Grandma, can I help?"
There's a lot of challenges, but by having to be a family operation, it makes it all more enjoyable.
This is what I do. It's my livelihood. I enjoy doing it. This is my hobby. It's my vocation. It's a wonderful place to enjoy life with my wife, my children, and grandchildren.
We're putting out a product for other people to drink and consume. We hope they like milk and cheese and ice cream and butter and all those good things.
What I've always done is what I enjoy doing. It's what I hope my family will continue to do in the future.
I'm Gerald Heatwell.
I'm Anita Heatwell.
I'm Monty Heatwell.
And I'm dedicated to dairy, our cows, our milk, and our land.
The average price of a traditional holiday meal has declined this year in Virginia. According to an informal annual survey by the Virginia Farm Bureau, the average price of a 10-serving turkey dinner came to $44.52. That's a drop of $1.93 from 2014. The price of a 16-pound turkey averaged $1.18 a pound compared to $1.37 a pound in 2014. According to the American Farm Bureau, farmers receive an average of only 16 cents from every food dollar spent in the U.S. That means this year's farmer's share of the holiday meal is $7.12. Looking for a new recipe to share with family on Christmas morning or perhaps for a holiday brunch? Former Miss America Carissa Jackson prepares a Havarti dill breakfast sandwich in the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Carissa Jackson for Heart of the Home, cooking at the Meadow Hall at the Meadow Event Park. Today we're going to be making egg, ham, and Havarti dill breakfast sandwiches. The holidays have passed. We have a bunch of ham. What are we going to do with it? We're going to make some awesome breakfast sandwiches. To begin, we are going to start with our eggs. If you have a large group of people that you are cooking for, I would suggest making your eggs in a muffin pan. You can do that by go ahead and spraying your pan with some nonstick oil, popping them in the oven at 350 for about 10 minutes to make your breakfast rounds. So we're going to begin with 1 egg. And we're going to sprinkle it with some salt, pepper, and a Sicilian blend of spices. We're going to cook it thoroughly through on one side, and then we're going to flip it over and continue. I have my heat on very low, so it's at about a 2 on the setting of our stove. All of the items that we're using today we've got from our friends at Relay Foods, but because they're Virginia items, you can find them at your local farmer's market or grocery store all year long. We have some great Virginia ham. Dairy is an awesome product of Virginia. And of course, we have some fresh eggs. This is a wonderful recipe that you can put together for a brunch. You can make these breakfast sandwiches ahead of time, wrap them up, put them in the fridge, and just nuke them in the microwave. So as you're trying to get all those relatives out of your house, just throw some breakfast sandwiches at them and get them on their way for their long road trip. All right, now that our eggs are done, we are going to go ahead and start with our sandwich assembly. So here I have 3 cheddar biscuits that I baked prior to this, so you can bake any type of bread that you prefer. And we're going to start with an egg on each biscuit. Then a couple of slices of ham. It doesn't matter what kind of ham you use. You can use Virginia ham, you can use honey ham. Whatever you have will work. You can also go to the deli if you want and just pick up a few slices of ham. And then we're going to use our Havarti dill to top it off. If you like a hotter sandwich, you can also at this point put the plate in the microwave to melt your cheeses. But if you don't, you can just put it together this way. You can also add your favorite condiments. If you want to put a little Dijon mustard on top, that would be really good as well. So there we have it, egg, ham, and Havarti dill breakfast sandwiches. I'm Caressa Jackson for Heart of the Home. Come and get it.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Relay Foods website at relayfoods.com. Visit the Virginia farm that produced an American legend. See the birthplace of 1973 Triple Crown champion Secretariat, now a Virginia Historic Landmark, at Meadow Event Park. Our Hoofprints of History tours are given year-round by reservation. It's a perfect day trip for families, groups large or small, and anyone who loves horses and history. Resident author historian Leanne Meadows Layden conducts the tours and shares behind-the-scenes stories about Meadow Stable and its most famous son, Secretariat. Meadow Event Park also hosts the annual Secretariat Birthday Celebration at the Virginia Horse Festival each spring. Visit Secretariat's birthplace at Meadow Event Park.
Flower bulbs are popular holiday gifts every year, but what do you do with those flowers after the holiday decorations are all packed away? We went to one of the nation's leading bulb operations to find out. Britt Heath was born into the bloom business. He is the 3rd generation to run the family nursery that has been in operation since 1900 in Gloucester County. Today, Bryn and Becky's Bulbs ships bulbs all over the nation, especially when people are looking for interesting gifts for the holidays, and they turn to flower bulbs. These holiday flowers have a long history in decorating in the winter.
Earlier on, when bulbs began to be collected and grown inside, the winter blooming ones from the Mediterranean area, called paper white narcissus, were collected by people and probably brought by early colonists here, and those who settled in northern Florida and southern Georgia and along the Gulf Coast. These bulbs naturally bloomed in the wintertime, and they could be used for Christmas decorations.
Operations like Brent and Becky's Bulbs are part of Virginia's green industry. Each year, nursery, greenhouse, floriculture, and sod operators sell more than $250 million worth of products to consumers or wholesalers. It's the 5th largest segment of Virginia's farm economy and very beautiful. He says several different types of bulbs make perfect gifts, but the most popular is the amaryllis.
The hippeastrums, which are commonly called amaryllis, these are giant big bulbs from South America, and they naturally bloom in the wintertime, so we don't have to trick them into blooming early. They can just naturally bloom early. Just keep it growing in the pot until danger of hard freeze is over, and then you can take it out and plant it in the garden in the spring. In September, if you want it to bloom inside again, you need to dig it or take it out of the pot if you continue to grow it in a pot, and let it dry out and have a 2-month rest period. So it needs that rest period to trigger it to bloom again.
You do need to plan ahead if you want to plant bulbs for gifts that will flower in time for Christmas. He says August and September are the best times and the latest times that you can plant hyacinthia, narcissus, and amaryllis bulbs for December flowering. If you time it just right, however, some of the bulbs will begin opening and releasing their fragrant perfume as you give them away. Many home and garden stores will have bulbs ready to purchase at just the right time.
But the spring flowering bulbs we plant in the fall from September until about the 1st of December. And you've got probably up until Christmas to plant spring flowering bulbs in our climate. But for the indoor bulbs, the peak time is anywhere from Halloween all the way to Easter. So you can have indoor bulbs all winter long. We're going to take this lovely big hippeastrum bulb and we're going to put it in this pot and we're going to use it as the centerpiece. And then we're going to take some wonderful bulbs called paper white narcissus. Now the hippeastrum has big red flowers and will grow about this high. The narcissus has many, many flowers and it's white. We're going to make a ring of them around the hippeastrum, where the third bulb we're going to do, the shoes and socks in this pot, is going to be the oxalis. And the oxalis is going to only be 2 or 3 inches tall. So they're the outside ring in this pot. And they're funny, cute little bulbs. They look like pine cones, kind of. And we're going to just put them right on the outside edge so the leaves will spread over the edge of the pot. And we just position them around and we're starting this pot now. It should be in bloom probably in about 4 weeks.
Paper white narcissus bulbs produce flowers within weeks. These springtime flowers bring color indoors and make easy gifts even for those without a green thumb. The reason they are so easy to coax into bloom is simple. The bud of the flower is in the bulb, ready to emerge once planted and urged out of dormancy. Both amaryllis and paper white bulbs can grow well in soil or water. They prefer staying in a cool room such as an unheated sun porch, especially at night. Any way you plant it, you're sure to make a beautiful gift.
We're in the business of helping people to smile. You know, flowers make people smile, and we're in the business of helping them to be successful in growing flowers. So our motto is plant bulbs and harvest smiles.
To learn more about bulbs for the holidays, contact your local cooperative extension office or go to brentandbeckysbulbs.com. That's going to do it for this edition of Real Virginia. We are so glad you could join us to celebrate the bounty Virginia has to offer. Whether it's in your home, your garden, or your landscape, we are proud to say that this is Real Virginia. So for everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching and make it a good week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay.